This is Joe Biden. On March 8, 2022, 2 weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine, Biden made an announcement regarding the import of Russian oil.
Today, I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy.
And this is big news. In 2021, the United States imported roughly 672,000 barrels per day of crude oil and petroleum products from Russia. That's roughly 8% of all U.S. oil imports.
That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine.
Of course, the United States did import 245 million barrels of oil from Russia last year, which I'm sure helped fund Russia's military, but don't worry, we're finally cutting them off. Take that, Putin!
This is a step that we're taking to inflict further pain on Putin, but there will be cost as well here in the United States. I said I would level with the American people from the beginning. And when I first spoke to this, I said defending freedom is going to cost. It's going to cost us as well in the United States.
And he's not kidding. On the day of the ban, the national average price of gasoline hit an all-time record high of $4.17 a gallon. That's up 89 cents from the beginning of the year. In fact, between the time Biden took office in January 2021 and the announcement of the Russian energy ban, the national average price of a gallon of gasoline had risen a whopping $1.78.
And with this action, it's going to go up further. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
But then, hours later, when Biden was asked if he had a message for the American people on gas prices,
It's going to go up. Can't do much right now. Russia's responsible.
in other words, Biden's going to do everything he can, which amounts to nothing. Thanks, Obama. But that's okay, because according to CNN, the most trusted name in news, the American people are totally fine with paying higher prices.
People we've spoken to over the last couple weeks, they're okay paying higher prices if it means holding Russia accountable for what they are doing in Ukraine.
Well, if CNN says it, I'm sure it must be true. Oh wait, it's not. Then there's multimillionaire late-night talk show host Stephen Colbert, who is totally prepared for you to pay more at the pump.
It's going to cost, but a clean conscience is worth $1 or $2. I'm willing to pay $4 a gallon. Hell, I'll pay $15 a gallon because I drive a Tesla.
Yeah, just buy a $100,000 Tesla like funny man Stephen Colbert, and you won't pay for gas anymore. Problem solved, guys. Anyway, with oil and gas prices soaring, Joe Biden tried to assure the American people that the energy crisis has nothing to do with the Biden-Harris administration.
Look, let me be clear. It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true.
No, actually, it is very true. This is a crisis of Joe Biden's own making.
Even amid the pandemic, companies in the United States pumped more oil during my first year in office than they did during my predecessor's first year.
So technically that statement is true, but only because it took 1 year for President Trump to get rid of the effects of the Biden-Obama administration's broken energy policies. And for the record, during the Trump administration, there was more crude oil production in the United States than any other time in history. That is, before the pandemic, of course. And as you can see, production under Biden is about 1.6 million barrels a day short.
We're approaching a record levels of oil and gas production in the United States, and we're on track to set a record of oil production next year.
According to the short-term energy outlook, the United States Energy Information Administration forecasts that by the end of 2023, the United States will average 12.6 million barrels a day. And even if that forecast is correct, it won't be higher than the output America accomplished during the Trump years, and it certainly won't be the record high that Biden claims.
We're on track to set a record of oil production next year.
So even before the ban on Russian oil, gas prices were at a 13-year high, and instead of encouraging domestic production, Biden was begging other countries to produce more oil for us.
If you take a look at, gas prices and you take a look at oil prices, that is a consequence of, thus far, the refusal of Russia or the OPEC nations to pump more oil.
So Biden wants to discourage domestic oil and gas production here in the United States because of climate change. But on the other hand, he has no problem letting other countries produce it because of climate change? Oh, my brain hurts. And none of this should be a surprise, because during the 2020 presidential campaign, Joe Biden made statements over and over again that a Biden administration would not be friendly to the fossil fuel industry in the United States. Here's a couple examples.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
No more drilling on federal lands, no more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends. Number one.
So when critics like President Trump used Biden's own words against him, Biden got mad.
I am not banning fracking. Let me say that again. I am not banning fracking, no matter how many times Donald Trump lies about me.
So when Biden said that there would be no ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period, and we would make sure that fracking is eliminated, it was Donald Trump lying about him. Got it. So 81 million votes later, during his first week in office, Biden signed an executive action that ordered the Secretary of the Interior to pause new oil and natural gas leases on public lands and in offshore waters. And as of March 2022, the Department of Interior has held 0 onshore lease sales, even though they're required by law. It did, however, hold an offshore sale in November, but after environmental groups like Earth Justice sued the Biden administration, a federal judge blocked those sales. And as of March 2022, the Department of the Interior and the Biden administration hasn't appealed that ruling. And why should they? Drilling offshore goes against their green energy agenda, so they aren't in any hurry.
Loosening environmental regulations or pulling back clean energy investment won't, let me explain, will not lower energy prices for families. But transforming our economy to run on electric vehicles powered by clean energy, that will help.
So if you're a family of 4 with 2 vehicles and you can't afford $8 a gallon gas, don't worry. Just replace them with electric vehicles. And if you can't afford to do that, just wait until Joe Biden transforms the economy. I'm sure it won't be too much longer. But in the meantime, we need oil. And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about what the Biden administration can do to increase production here in the United States.
Well, there are 9,000 approved oil leases that the oil companies are not tapping into currently, so I would ask them that question.
Is there nothing that the administration can do to get those providers back to pre-pandemic levels?
Do you think the oil companies don't have enough money to drill on the places that have been pre-approved?
Just asking.
I would point that question to them, and we can talk about it more tomorrow when you learn more.
So according to Jen Psaki, the oil companies already have plenty of leases, and the ones that they have, they aren't using. But in reality, just because an oil company holds a lease, it doesn't mean that they can just immediately start drilling. These leases need to undergo time-consuming and costly geological evaluation and development. And even then, there's no guarantee that these leases will even produce oil. According to the American Petroleum Institute, 100 leases will lead to 11 drillable prospects. And of those, only 1 may have sufficient quantities of oil and gas to produce. And that means that out of those 9,000 unused leases, it's possible that as few as 90 of those leases will be suitable to drill. And I should mention that not all of the 9,000 leases are for oil. Many of them are for gas. Okay, fine, whatever. If there's dozens of producible leases just sitting there, then why don't we just drill? Well, not so fast. Before you can drill, you need drilling permits. And guess where those permits come from? The federal government. But according to Joe Biden, there's plenty of drilling permits out there already, and the oil companies are refusing to use them.
They have 9,000 permits to drill now. They could be drilling right now, yesterday, last week, last year. They have 9,000 to drill onshore that are already approved.
So according to Joe Biden, businessman, the oil companies have 9,000 permits to drill, and they can be drilling right now, tomorrow. Crisis averted, guys. Oh wait, he's wrong. I know you're shocked. Anyway, here's how it works. Let's say that an oil company has leased land to drill oil. That company likely holds dozens of permits to drill on that land. In other words, it's not one drilling permit per parcel of land, it's one permit for every well you drill. So does that mean that there are 9,000 unused permits to drill for oil? Nope. These permits also might be used to drill for natural gas.
They have 9,000 permits to drill now. They could be drilling right now, yesterday, last week, last year.
No, stupid. Just because you have drilling permits, it doesn't mean that you can start drilling immediately. You have to put a drilling plan together, navigate potential litigation, get financing, hire the workers, and install the rigs. And there are other considerations. Companies may have to build roads to get machinery to the site. They might have to build facilities. And they most definitely will need to build pipelines to transport product. And all of these considerations require, wait for it, permits from the federal government. And let's not forget that there are always going to be environmental considerations. For example, in an article on Wyophile by Dustin Blazeffer, a complex set of timing and surface stipulations make it difficult to develop all of those leases in a timely fashion. Sage grouse and raptor nesting protections, for example, block a sizable portion of federal leases from being developed from March to June in Wyoming. Sorry guys, can't do anything about it. It's sage grouse season. This is all more complicated than you thought, huh? So despite all of that, the Biden administration has the audacity to blame the oil companies.
Do you think the oil companies don't have enough money to drill on the places that have been pre-approved?
Well, Red, the short answer is many of those companies don't. According to the Independent Petroleum Association of America, independent producers develop 91% of the wells in the United States, producing 83% of America's oil and 90% of America's natural gas. And for clarity, an independent producer is a producer who does not have more than 5 million in retail sales in a year, or does not refine more than an average of 75,000 barrels per day in a given year. In other words, not every company is a multinational powerhouse like ExxonMobil. So no, these companies don't just have millions of dollars lying around. They require financing or capital, which can be difficult to secure. So now, with everything that you just learned, watch Orange Woman Bad get everything wrong.
Well, first of all, nearly 60% of leased acres remain non-producing. That's a lot, in the range of 20 million acres.
Right, but first you need drilling permits to produce those acres, which your administration is slow rolling. And second, not every lease is producible.
So there are 9,000 unused approved permits to drill in. That should not require us inviting them to do that. They have, the leases are there, the permits are there. I don't think they need an embroidered invitation to drill. That is, they are oil companies.
So as we learned, not all of these 9,000 drilling permits are for oil. And even when they are, companies can't just start drilling immediately. Here's Lauren Simonetti from Fox Business on the matter.
On the federal lands, they're telling us it's taking 9 to 12 months to get a permit. And that doesn't even include the pipelines. The pipelines, Maria, they take years. Some are saying it's a miracle any drilling is taking place at all.
But instead of acknowledging the bureaucratic red tape, Orange Woman Bad continues to blame the oil companies.
What is happening here is that we are seeing these are private sector companies. We recognize that. Many of them are making
record profits.
We're asking them to go use the approved permits, use the unused space, and go get more supply out of the ground in our own country.
So the oil companies are making record profits, but at the same time, they're refusing to drill on the land that they leased. Sure, okay.
So let me be clear. They are not using them for production now. That's their decision. These are the facts. We should be honest about the facts.
Says the man who hasn't been honest about the facts since he took office. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. If there is a next time.